Well, okay, this is unfortunately, uh, I was not able to get out to any of the dark sites this past month again to do a normal galaxy log, and the reason was it's been a bad winter here in the Northeast. Many of you guys been observing from the Northeast. Uh, it's been rough all winter. This might be the worst that I can remember in a long time of not being able to get to a dark site. And reason is because a lot of that at night and day, and a lot of that, and that really that was a killer. Um, what even though there was a few clear nights after this big snowstorm, um, snow's a killer. I'm also not only into galaxies, I'm also a light pollution specialist, and have done talks and written about light pollution for a long time, for nearly 40 years. And snow's just a killer. I mean, even good lighting, it just reflects everything back up into the sky. The sky just looks bright, and even if you go to a decent dark site, it just really deteriorates everything, and transparency is just not very good. So that's just the way it is. There's nothing we could do about it. So figured, well, how if I do a special here on some favorite spring galaxies with various telescopes. So I'm going to go from the smallest to the largest scopes that I use for galaxy log and for galaxy observing. And the smallest I use is the Explore Scientific First Light 4-inch f6.47. I have a Twilight Nano mount, which it came with. The only thing I did add a Rigel Quick Finder to it, which I really like. The scope itself, it's a 4-inch achromat. Nice optics. It does really well. I'm surprised how really crisp and clean the images are when I'm observing galaxies through this telescope. I would say for me personally, this is the bare minimum to get decent or starting to get serious galaxy observing, to really see galaxies, their shapes, and they actually see them well. I think this is the bare minimum. A 4-inch refractor, I think, is a nice start if you're into just beginning to observe galaxies. And of course, as you continue with larger aperture, you'll see more and more detail. But I think the 4-inch can really start sharpening your eye to be able to see galaxies and more detail in galaxies, especially, like I said, the brighter galaxies. So this is the first galaxy we'll talk about using the 4-inch telescope, and it's one of the bright galaxies in the sky. It's M94 Kinesman Odyssey, and you can see it as a bright magnitude. Surface brightness is a little low, but we'll talk about that in a minute here why. Here's its size and its distance. Now, the galaxy is kind of like layered. It's face on, and it has a bright star core, then this inner ring of hot young stars, and then this outer bright ring here. Now, this faint, really large outer ring, which brings its size and does bring the surface brightness down, its over total surface brightness down, is not seen in smaller telescopes. Not to my knowledge, it can be seen. I've seen it in a 16-inch telescope, but certainly not in the 4-inch refractor. I do have a near view image that I did of the galaxy, and here it is. This is with a 9mm eyepiece. The sky conditions were very good that night. And you can see it has a nice bright little stellar core. Here's that inner ring of hot young stars, and then that outer ring around that, but not the farther big large ring away from the main part of the galaxy. That's just not seen in a small telescope. But the brighter part of the galaxy is easily seen, and the galaxy does stand out well. And it can be seen even in light polluted areas. But dark skies, it's very, very vivid and very, very bright. And then here in the next galaxy, we go to Coma Berenices, and it's the Black Eye Galaxy, M64. And it has a magnitude of 8.5, which is very bright, and a very high surface brightness. It's a fairly large galaxy, distance about 20 million light years. Now you can see why they call it the Black Eye Galaxy, with this crescent of dark dust around surrounding the nucleus area of the galaxy. Now the Black Eye itself, this area here, I didn't see in a 4-inch refractor, but it usually requires a larger telescope to see. But the galaxy itself does show up really, really well, because it is bright and it does have a high surface brightness and it's fairly large. So in this size telescope, it's a really nice, easy, bright galaxy to view. We step up a bit larger in telescopes. This is actually my newest telescope. This is a Meade LX85 120, almost 4 3/4 inch, f5.8 refractor. Now, I have this on the ES Twilight 1 mount, which is nice because it has the slow motion controls. And the combination works out really well. Now, I haven't had this telescope at a dark site yet. The image here is from home. The skies aren't dark, but it's okay. So I'm anxious to take this telescope into darker skies. What I've seen so far here, some views of some galaxies, it does really, really well. So I'm anxious to take it to the darker skies. And with this telescope, and I've viewed, of course, the Leo Trio with the 4-inch refractor, and this is being, a larger telescope, more aperture. It should actually bring up the Leo Trio much better than when I saw in the 4-inch. And of course, the Leo Trio consists of M65, which is right here, M66, and NGC 3628. And they are so neat to look at because each one is so different. M65 has a very bright core, very elongated, fairly bright disk that stands out really well. M66 is the most detailed of the three, and even with the smaller telescope, if you have a really good night and do maybe push the magnification a little bit, you can see the bar structure, and it'll have this faint fan shape to it. So it's definitely different than M65. And then the large, which is the largest of the three galaxies, is NGC 3628. And it is fainter. It is fairly good magnitude at 8.95. It has a low surface brightness. And it is big. And as far as with the smaller telescope, you'll see this elongated glow, slight brightening in the core area. The dark lane is difficult to pick up in a small telescope. It requires usually a larger telescope under dark skies. But the view of having all three galaxies in one eyepiece field is one of the great views of the spring sky. And so this is really, I'm anxious to take this telescope to a dark site and view the Leo Trio with it. This is a really great galaxy. It's M106, Kinesman Odyssey. There's a little companion galaxy, NGC 4248. But 106 is one of the bright galaxies in the sky, very large. As far as brightness is not bad. But when you first view it, even on a smaller telescope, this thing looks like a galaxy. It just speaks galaxy. And with the smaller telescope, you'll see a bright inner core region, this bright area all around it. Stands out really well. But even this large halo can be seen under dark skies. So the galaxy really, it seems very large, even at low magnification. But you can play with magnification with this one also. You can push the power a little bit. Now its partner here, NGC 4248, is much fainter. It's a low surface brightness and it's fairly small. I'm not certain if the 47 will be able to pick this up under even really dark skies, but it'd be a good challenge. It'll be a good challenge. But M106 is the main thing here, and it really is a great galaxy to view. One of the things I want to do with the 4.7, the 4.7 is, when I take it to darker sites, it's actually going to be mostly as a sidekick for the larger telescopes, especially the 12-inch and the 22-inch. When I have them up, it'll be more of a sidekick. And one of the things I do want to do, though, is definitely take it to a very dark site and go through the Virgo cluster with it. I think it'd be a good, really neat telescope with its wide field views to go through the Virgo cluster with it under dark skies. And of course, a good way to start is right in the center of the Virgo cluster is M87. The most massive galaxy in the Virgo cluster. This is the galaxy, of course, which is noted to be had the image of the black hole a couple of years ago, and which of course is not seen in its telescope. But here it is. It's an 8.6 magnitude, very bright. It's one of the brightest galaxies in the Virgo cluster. Very high surface brightness, being elliptical. Here's its distance, and then it has these NGC galaxies. The first one's NGC 4478, which is this one right here, and then NGC 4476. Now, with this size telescope, 4478 will be visible. It's fairly bright. It's small, but it would be bright. So that with M87 should be a nice view. The 4476 would be more of a challenge, but I think because it has a fairly high surface brightness, so it's under 13, with a 12.2 magnitude, I think on a good night it should be seen. So it would be anxious to see all three of these galaxies in one field of view. I step up a little bit more aperture, and this is a GSO 6-inch f5 Newt on the Explorer Scientific Twilight 1 mount, but I also use it on a go-to mount that will be seen here in the next telescope. This telescope actually is my wife's telescope, and really for a mass-produced telescope, this really has some nice optics to it. I'm very pleased with the optical quality of this telescope. It's a nice Crayford focus to it. It's very smooth. Doesn't have the 10:1 ratio, but it does, the micro focuser. But it does have a nice smooth focuser. Focuses very easily to get a nice clean focus to it. It has a 6x30 finder, which is okay. I think in this size telescope, I would probably switch it out to an 8x50. But the 6x30 does fine. On the go-to system, it doesn't make a difference. But on this, using this mount, it's not bad. Like I said, it's not bad. But I'd rather, for this size telescope, I think an 8x50 would be a much better finder scope. And one of the galaxies that responds well, really well to this size telescope is M104 in Virgo. It's right on the Virgo Corvus border. Of course, we know it as the Sombrero Galaxy, and very bright galaxy, one of the brightest galaxies in the sky. And of course, it's the signature galaxy of Galaxy Log. And with this telescope, you can see the dark lane. You want to push magnification a little bit too, and that's the nice thing about this galaxy, because it's fairly good size, and it does have a high surface brightness. You can really push the magnification on it to bring out the dark lane. The dark lane actually can be seen in smaller telescopes under dark skies. So, but this is one of the great views in the night sky, and can be seen in smaller telescopes. You can see in a finder scope. So, next is M63, Kinesman Odyssey, and here again, it's a fairly bright galaxy, fairly good sized galaxy. It's a nearby galaxy at 23 million light years. Surface brightness is not bad, but as you can see, it's a really nice image. It has some real nice detail within these inner spiral arms, some dark dust around it, and gives this even with a smaller telescope, really gives a modeled look to this galaxy. And so it's a galaxy that I highly recommend if you have a 6-inch telescope. This thing will show you some really nice views. Okay, next is my Bresser 8.2-inch f3.9 dial. And this is where I have it on the go-to mount. It's an old Celestron CG5 AS GT mount. And the pair actually does really, really well. Here again, the optical quality of this telescope is really nice. Now, it's a hybrid telescope. So a lot of people who are in the imaging like this telescope, especially for big wide field imaging. And so the secondary size of the secondary mirror in this telescope is a little bit oversized, but that's fine with me. I'm fine with it. I don't have a regular finder on it. I just have the Roger Quick Finder because I always use it on this mount, this go-to mount. So that's all I need. I don't really need anything else. But yeah, the scope does really, really well. I'm really pleased, and like I said, the optical quality is really good. And one galaxy that really responded well with this telescope is a galaxy you don't hear much about. It's in the southern part of Leo. It's NGC 3521, and it's a very bright galaxy. It's one of the brighter galaxies in the night sky. Fairly good surface brightness. You can see here's its size, 38 million light years away. A beautiful, slightly inclined spiral galaxy that I have a near view image of. We're using a 7mm eyepiece, and when I viewed this galaxy that night, you can see I have sky conditions were excellent, and they were excellent. It was a really, really good night. Not only with transparency, it was a really good dark side I was at. The transparency was really good, and seeing was really good that night. And so detail really started to pop. Very bright, vivid stellar nucleus. Brighter inner region of the galaxy, very modeled to it, extended very, really well. And so it's a really, really nice galaxy that you don't hear, like I said, you don't hear much about because it does sit in the southern part of Leo. And of course, Leo's known for many other bright galaxies, and of course, like the Leo trio and so on. So, but yeah, this is a good galaxy to go for. It really is. It can be seen in smaller telescopes also. Next is another favorite, NGC 4631, which people call the whale galaxy. I call it the blue whale galaxy because it's more streamlined, like a blue whale. So it does look like a blue whale. The galaxy itself is very large. It has a fairly good magnitude at 9.2. Surface brightness is not too bad, around 13. It's very big. But here with this size telescope, in the 8-inch, 10-inch range, this galaxy responds really, really well. A lot of modeling, you'll see extended very well. A lot of patchiness to it with these nice star clouds. You don't really see a stellar nucleus to it because you can see here's the inner part of the galaxy right here, and it's kind of blocked by this dark dust and so on. So you really won't see a vivid stellar nucleus out of it. And then it has the little companion galaxy, NGC 4627, which is not too bad. It has a high surface brightness, and it can be seen fairly easy with an 8-inch telescope. And it can actually be seen in smaller telescopes too, under good sky conditions. Another fine interacting pair is NGC 4490, which is the larger galaxy, and NGC 4485. And here again, it's a bright galaxy. It's sub 10 magnitude as far as being bright, fairly 9.8. Surface brightness 12.8, which is really nice. A really nice bright galaxy, and stands out really well, even in smaller telescopes. Really good size. And what's interesting with this galaxy here, because it does have a good high surface brightness, and it's fairly good size, you can really pump the magnification up on this and bring out more detail. And with this telescope, you see a brighter inner region part of the galaxy, a nice big mottled area around it, and then this hook of an arm coming down like this towards its companion galaxy NGC 4485. And that can be seen. In fact, it can be actually seen. It's seen in a 6-inch refractor. Um, but it does respond really well to magnification. And then its little companion galaxy. It's a little more difficult to see, but I haven't seen it. I've actually seen this companion galaxy in the 4-inch telescope under really dark skies. So it makes a fine view. One of the things you might want to try also is when you see galaxies that have a lot of H2 regions like this, that's these pink regions around here, you might want to try putting a nebula filter in there and then pumping the power up a little bit. Now the galaxy itself, most of the galaxy itself will seem to get dimmer, but the H2 regions, the nebula, will start standing out a little bit more. So if you have a fairly large telescope, you might want to give that a try and see if you can get some of these H2 regions. They go up a bit larger then into the 12-inch class, and this is my Orion Optics UK VX 12-inch f4. I've only had this telescope for a little over a year, and I like it a lot. Really good optics in it, really fine optics in it. What I'm going to definitely do is I'm going to be souping this up a little bit. I'm going to get digital setting circles for it, get some type of drive system for it. But yeah, I'm real pleased with it, and haven't had it out to do many spring galaxies with it, so I'm getting anxious to do that. So some of the things I'll be talking about in these galaxies coming up basically were observed with my old 12.5-inch homemade Dob, which I still use, but I'm using mostly here at home, and thinking about maybe putting up a small observatory. They have a lot of acreage here, and putting up a small observatory and having it in the observatory, because it's a much bulkier telescope than this telescope itself. So it'd be really nice to have it, just to have it set up in a small observatory, and just ready to go anytime. But this telescope I'll be taking more and more to dark sites. And one of the favorite views of in Virgo is this pair of NGC 4762 and NGC 4754. 4762 is the beautiful edge-on galaxy right here, razor thin, just really thin. And then 4754 is this galaxy right here. It's a little bit farther away, so they're not a true companionship. The 4754 is farther away. Now, the view itself in the eyepiece is striking because of the contrast of the different shapes of galaxies. They're both bright galaxies, so they stand out really well. The other thing, too, is you'll see this nice field stars that kind of really enhances the view of the pair of galaxies. But this is really one of the fine views in Virgo, and highly recommend if you have a mid-sized telescope and larger. This is one of the great views to go for. Another large galaxy is NGC 4244 in Kinesman Odyssey. Now the magnitude is 10.4, but its surface brightness is 13.9, so it's almost 14th magnitude surface brightness. So it has a low surface brightness. It's a close galaxy at 12 million light years, and you can see it's very large. And I did a near view using the 12.5 at 152 magnification, and this was under excellent sky conditions. Really a good dark sight, good transparency that night, and you can see there's a very faint stellar nucleus I could see, bit mottled, but it really extended really well. Now, because of the surface brightness is low, really to get a good view of this galaxy, particularly a good part of its length, is going to require some dark skies. So this is a galaxy that if you do have a mid-sized telescope, you definitely want to get in dark skies. Get into the 12-inch and larger range. This galaxy just is striking in the eyepiece. It really is. Next is I'm big into interacting galaxies. It's a favorite of mine is to observe interacting galaxies, and this is up on part of I could say up on the top of the list of interacting pair. Um, I've nicknamed it the bow tie galaxy for obvious reasons. Kind of looks like a bow tie, and it's NGC 3690 or ARP 299 in Ursa Major. It's kind of like centered in the bowl of the Big Dipper. Uh, so it's fairly easy to find. Um, Magnitude is 11.6. The surface brightness is 12.8, so it's a high surface brightness, but it isn't big. It is far away. It's 150 million light years, but it's not large. So you'll need some magnification, and it can be seen in smaller telescopes. But really to get a really good view, high magnification and a 12-inch and larger telescope is wow. It will show this bow tie shape. So, yeah, this is one of my favorites. Now, it's interesting that years ago, I was hoping that the Hubble Space Telescope was going to image this, because I never saw an image from Hubble with this galaxy. And you can look it up. You can go on the internet and look up NGC 3690 and Hubble Space Telescope. And the Hubble Space Telescope image is spectacular. So I was so glad to see that, because this has been a favorite interacting pair for a long, long time. Next is NGC 4725, which is this beautiful barred spiral galaxy. And then NGC 4712, which is this small background galaxy here. This is one of my favorite galaxies in the sky to view with a larger telescope. And because you can see some detail, some really nice detail. Now, you can see where the galaxy itself is fairly bright. The surface brightness is 13.9, so it's almost 14th magnitude. And the reason is because, well, you have this inner region here. It's fairly bright core, bars here, but it has this large outer ring here that's fairly low, very dim. So it brings down its surface brightness a bit. So, but viewing it through the telescope, and I do have a near view image of it here. Here it is. This is a while back, and this is with the 12.5-inch dial. And I was using a 12 millimeter, which gave me 127 power. And you can see it gave me a bright stellar nucleus. You can see the bar structure in this inner ring, which is right here. You can see. So I was seeing a lot of the details seen here, but this outer part, no, not at all. I couldn't see that at all. And then 4712 is this elongated glow over here with a slight brightening in this core region. But the pair makes a nice pair, but the main galaxy here, 4725, is just a beautiful barred spiral galaxy. Get into the real large telescopes, it just knocks your socks off. Then we have back into Virgo, and another favorite interacting pair is we also call the butterfly galaxies, is NGC 4567 and 4568. Also over here is 4564, which is a foreground galaxy. Now, the two spirals just are really beautiful together, and it does kind of resemble the shape of butterfly wings. Some people call it the Siamese twins, but I like to call it the butterfly galaxies. And you can actually see this pair. I seen it in my old 8-inch refractor from Cherry Springs that had my parents up there then at that time. And my dad was looking at this. We had this in the telescope. And he sat down in the observing chair and was observing this. And he just kept on saying, "That is neat. That is neat. That is neat." And it really was. And my dad hasn't looked through many telescopes. In fact, I can't remember other than that time. It was the last my father looked through a telescope. But he was just in awe of this view through the 8-inch refractor. And you get into the larger telescopes under dark skies, it's striking. And having 4564, this very bright galaxy right here in the same field of view, it makes all that much more of a highlight to see what you see here in this beautiful image. So, highly advise going to see these this beautiful interacting pair and its foreground galaxy here, 4564. Now we go to my largest telescope, and this is an Astro Systems 22-inch f4.5 Dob with Steve Swayze optics. I've had the scope since 1998. It's tremendous optics. Steve Swayze is known to make some really fine, large mirrors, and this one's no exception. And I have for a finder scope is a short tube 80 millimeter f6, which does really well for this telescope. So okay, so the first thing I have is Messier 51, and which is of course the Whirlpool galaxy, one of the most famous galaxies in the sky. And you're thinking, okay, well, what am I doing here with the 22? I can put this galaxy with the smaller telescopes, blah, blah. Well, there's a reason for this, and I'm going to be talking about this. First of all, of course, even with low magnification, spiral arms are easy seen, no problem whatsoever. But what's interesting is that with the 22, I have push magnification up over 500 power, and actually seeing detail within the spiral arms. So it's funny that years ago I was showing a then new club member the Whirlpool, and he went up the ladder, and I had it at 500 power, and he looked in there, and he was just wow. Wowed by it. And the next day he ordered an 18-inch telescope, an 18-inch obsession, I believe it was. Yeah, 18-inch obsession. So, but that really started from that point on in the Chesterman Astronomical Society, this aperture fever, and the guys in the club started getting larger and larger telescopes, and so it was basically the view that kickstarted that through the 22 of looking at M51 and looking at high magnification. But yeah, it's striking through a large telescope. It really, in fact, some images don't do it justice to what you can actually see through a large aperture telescope, particularly when you really push magnification and you can look at internal structure of bright galaxies like this. I've done it with other galaxies. Did it with the Sombrero. Did it with M82. In fact, the M82, I remember looking at it at over 1,000 magnification, and it was just stunning. So here's another bright galaxy, and this is actually the brightest irregular galaxy in the northern sky. It's NGC 4449, and you can see it as a fairly bright magnitude of 9.6, high surface brightness, good decent size. It's a nearby galaxy, and here again you're thinking, okay, well, why in a bright galaxy here? This is viewed. It could be viewed in my 4-inch refractor, the smallest telescope that we started with. But there's reasons for that, and here it is. Here's the near view image, and this is a great representation of what this galaxy looks like through the 22 at over 300 magnification. Bright nucleus, and you can see it's rectangular shape to it. A lot of modeling, some outer regions of it. These are the H2 regions and star clouds that you can see. It's just amazingly detailed in a large telescope. But hey, you can see this in smaller telescopes. It looks really nice in the 4-inch refractor. But I wanted to show what kind of detail can be seen in a very large telescope. And this is what you're seeing. Next is perhaps maybe my favorite galaxy in the nighttime sky. There is something just so appealing about this. And a lot of people, it's funny because years ago when I was at the Northeast Astronomy Forum, John Dobson was the keynote speaker for the one day on a Saturday, I believe it was. And I asked him when we came to the question part of his talk, and I asked him, I said, what was his favorite galaxy? And he mentioned NGC 4565. And my wife, who knew this is my favorite galaxy, looked at me and smiled. And yeah, this was John Dobson's favorite galaxy, and definitely is my favorite galaxy. And it is the most beautiful edge-on galaxy in the sky. It's just so classic edge-on. And here again, I had, even though it's a fairly bright galaxy, solar brightness is not real. It's 13.1, very large. This is a very large spiral galaxy, very large. Even at 45 million light years away, you can see how big it is. But in the 22, okay, first of all, when you look at it through low power, you know, obviously a lot of the detail that you see here is seen. Dark lane, no problem. Big central bulge area, extends really well, very well modeled. And then you start pushing the magnification a little bit. And what's interesting is you start seeing detail within the dark lane. And the other thing what's really cool, and you can actually kind of see it here in this photograph. Here's the stellar nucleus right here. And when you look at it at high magnification in the 22, and you look at this area, it looks like the sun rising over the horizon, or sunset, however you want to look at it. That's what it looked like to me. Very, very striking, amazing. But be able to see also all detail within the dark lane, which I was also able to do when I looked at the sombrero at high magnification with the 22. You could actually see detail within the dark lane. So, but yeah, this was really something to see. This is really something to see in a large aperture, 20-inch plus telescope. And like I said, don't be afraid to push the magnification a bit, and especially looking at the dark lane part towards the center of the galaxy, where it stands out really, really well. And look for that sunrise or sunset view with the stellar nucleus. Then we get into the dimmer galaxies, more challenging galaxies. And this is Hickson 55 and Draco. And they range in magnitude from 15 to 17.4. Really high surface brightnesses. And here's the distance. So they're out there. This was a really neat view. And I did a galaxy log for it. And here it is. This was not under my darkest dark site. It was a good dark site on a good night. I used a 6mm eyepiece, so it's over 400 magnification. And here we go right here. I was able to actually pick up 4 of the 5 galaxies. The dimmest galaxy, which you can see is right here in the sky survey image. I couldn't say I could actually see it. I couldn't say I could actually see it. I want to definitely view this from a darker site and see if I can get all these galaxies. But yeah, this is a really neat to see this chain of galaxies, and at that distance, it was something to see, and was one of my favorite views that night when I did this near view. And then NGC 4618 and 4625 in Canasman Odyssey. And this is very interesting. These 2 galaxies are fairly close together, though is the 4625 is slightly in the background by a couple million light years. And 4618 is an amazing galaxy to view in the large aperture telescope. It's kind of a barred look to it, the barred spiral, and then it has this big sickle hook of an arm. So if you look back here at this nice image, 4625, it has really the same shape, but it's almost like a mirrored, where it's the opposite, where you have the bar going this way like this, but then this large sickle arm, which looks similar to this, going the other way. So this is going counterclockwise, and this one's going clockwise. So, but here's the particulars of both galaxies. Of course, being this is the foreground galaxy and the larger galaxy stands out well. And I did, of course, the near view image of it. And it was done the same night as, around the same time as the image of Hickson 55. And this is really a great representation of what I saw at the eyepiece. The bar structure internal was easy to see. And then the big hook arm. This was at 228 magnification with 11 millimeter eyepiece. But what's interesting, you go to the other galaxy, and you start seeing some of that structure. Now, I would like to take the 22 to a darker site and on a better night, and to see how much more detail I can pick up with 4625, like you can see in the photograph here. I definitely want to see how much more, if I can pick up any of this type, but going the other way, which is really interesting. But I just found that fascinating when you look at the photograph of this pair, how these galaxies look so similar, you know, with this big sickle arms, but one going one way and the other going the other way is just striking. But it's really a great pair to view in a large telescope, and they can be seen in smaller telescopes. But to bring out this kind of detail that you see in the photograph, it really requires a much larger telescope. Now, I have a challenge for my 22 and my eyes, and here it is. It's Hickson 50 in Ursa Major, and it's actually not too far from the Owl Nebula. So this is supposedly the most difficult of the Hickson group to view, and here they are right here. It's this oval shape of galaxies right here, and they go magnitude of 17.5 plus, and the distance is over 2 billion light years. So they're really out there. Not certain. We'll see. It'll be a good challenge for the 2020. The 22 has over the years has given me some great views of both bright and dim galaxies, and I've been able to push it, like with Hickson 55 and some other Hickson groups and some other dim galaxies. So it'll be interesting to see if I can see any of these, especially the brighter ones. It'll be difficult. It'll require a very, very dark sight on a very good night, even with steady seeing, and probably high magnification. Probably, I'm guessing, well over 500 magnification, probably going into 600 magnification plus to actually see these at all. But what is interesting though is that there's this is about a 13.2 magnitude star, something like that. There's a interacting pair right here, and it's called Leda. I guess it's called Leda, 2485269, and by the image they look brighter than the Hickson 50 group right here. So it'll be interesting to see if I can see these guys at all first before I even attempt to go for these. So we'll see. But either way, it's going to be a challenge for the 22 and a challenge for my eyes. And that's one of the things about galaxy observing, which I will always say that it's the most challenging part of amateur astronomy, is to pick up detail and galaxies. And there's so many. That's the thing. There's so many galaxies to go out and view, especially this time of the year coming up with the spring. I could have chosen many other galaxies for this, but I figured I'd go through some of these, and I'll do this again, going through some other really favorite galaxies through various size telescopes. But it is challenging. It is neat to challenge yourself and your optics and your telescope, because telescope to me is part of you. It's an extension of you to explore the universe. And so there's a certain pride we each take of our own telescopes. And with the 22 being my largest, I really like pushing it to see what it can bring me to my eye. And this will be interesting to see if I can pick any of these galaxies up in Higgs 50, and or at least get this interacting pair here. But we'll see. And if it does occur, and I'll do a special galaxy log on it, and go from there. So that's it for this special edition of Galaxy Log, and I'm crossing my fingers, hopefully that the March dark window will allow me to get out and see some spring galaxies and go out and go for Higgs 50, and actually even revisit some of the galaxies that I just reviewed tonight under maybe even better sky conditions or better dark sites, and do some more galaxy logs on them, and we'll see. So that's it for this special edition of Galaxy Log. Clear dark skies, and happy galaxy observing.